Is it hard to be fresh if you don't have money, or can you still pull it off?
See, when I ain't had no money, I still had sauce. See, if you don't got no sauce, then you're lost. But you can also get lost in the sauce.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back for another episode. As you guys can clearly tell from the title, we are replacing a clutch on a Civic Si. This one here is a 2007. I know they made it for 2008 and a couple years on, and then they changed the body style. But this reason I wanted to make a video for you guys is it's not straightforward like it is on like a K-swap car. If you got a K-swap car, it's just like replacing any transmission. It's just obviously on the other side, like as a B series and a D series. The reason I wanted to make a video of doing this is because there's a few more steps that you have to do to take it out of a car that actually comes with a K series. Like this one, we have to remove the subframe. There's a couple other things we have to remove, and I wanted to show you guys how to do it without having to take out the rack and pinion. Because if you remove the rack and pinion with the whole subframe, then you got to get the car aligned, and it's a big pain in the butt. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. First things first, though, we just got to take the battery out. Once we take the battery out, then we can take the intake out. Then we'll go to the shift linkage, work with everything here, and then we'll get underneath. And we'll get to that in a minute. But before we do, I want to show you guys a car that had previously came in about a week ago. I just didn't have time to record it, but we are definitely going to be recording it now. This car here, the cleanest EK hatch, EK in general, we have ever had in the shop that has been this clean. This car is super, super awesome. It's got nice wheels. It's got a lot of nice parts on it. But what we're going to do to it is we're actually going to K-swap it. It literally just came in for a street tune and replacement of the turbo. Once I got everything put in, the car smoked like the bug guy does on Wednesday nights, and it was bad. So I went ahead and pulled the manifold off, and I could see oil coming out from the head. So we went ahead and lifted the head off, and we found that these pistons are not big enough. You can see they are moving all around. They're 75 millimeter pistons, and the block is bored out to 75.5. So they just got way too much play in there. You can't really see with the light, but it totally messed up the cylinder wall. So this is going to have to be taken out, bored out, and then put bigger pistons in. But we went ahead and made a trade. I got that, and I traded him some parts for his build, some K-series parts on the coupe that you guys saw me working on like a week ago. I'm actually taking everything out of that, and we're doing some trade. And this will be in my possession. So, and we're also going to be making this thing with AC, power steering, everything K-swapped. But this is going to be another project for another day. I just want to show you guys. Make sure you know who you bring your stuff to, because the customer had no idea that this happened. It was the machine shop that he sent it to. They put it all together, and they should have noticed this. So make sure whoever builds your engine, check their credits, check their reviews. And this is really not the customer's fault. He got the block and then got the pistons. The person that put it together should have clearly been able to tell that this was the wrong size. So anyways, that sucks. But we're going to take it all apart, K-swap it, be another build. But anyways, enough of me talking about that. Let's get back to the reason you guys are watching this video. And let's start this K-swap clutch deal. So let's go. Sweet, so for right now we've gotten everything finished that we need to right here. Next up, we're going to go ahead and lift it up. Just want to show you guys what I did. These shifter forks here, these clips here are a pain in the butt to get off and on. So I just went ahead and removed the 3 bolts that hold it down. They're 12 millimeter, zip, 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 and it comes all the way out. I put the cotter pins, I usually do this, I put the cotter pins back in their spot that way, because they're super little, super easy to lose. Where are they? Right here. I just put those back in place, that way I don't lose them. Then I went ahead and I unplugged the harness, so you just got a little bit of harness plugs here for like reverse and stuff like that, and for the shifter selector. Get that taken out of the way. Obviously you can tell I took out the battery, I took out the battery tray, and I took out the intake. And that's pretty much everything you need to do up here for right now. Next step, what we're going to do is go ahead and get the car up in the air, and then we're going to start on getting that subframe out. Alright, now we got the car up in the air. You can see I took the wheels off. I'm going to show you guys what you need to do. So there's 4 bolts that hold it up. Well, here on the bottom, there's this one, There's that one, and then you got another one, oh, over here, not that one, and that one. There's also two that are hiding right up here, so you got to remove that one there, and that one up there. So once you remove that, it'll drop down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down a little bit, and then it makes it easier to get to the stuff for the power steering rack. It makes it easier. Just drops down a little bit. You got more room. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, loosen that up. Also, you got to take these out down here, get those removed, and it'll lower for the subframe, and everything should just drop down. So I'm going to go ahead, get everything loose, and then go ahead and drop her down. Alright, so I went ahead and got all the bolts out of the way for the subframe. I'll show you guys once we get back there, or once we get it down, I can show you where the bolts are and everything for the back side of the subframe. It does get a little difficult. Some of them you got to get from, there's two that it's easier to get from up top, and then the other one you have to get from the back. Once you remove those bolts, it just drops down a little bit. But now I'm going to go ahead and just drop the subframe. If you don't have a transmission jack, which I highly recommend to get, and you're using a lift, you just want to lower it down a little bit, get a jack on the back and get a jack on the front, and then just teeter-totter it till you got it all the way down to the ground. Or you could drop it, you know, real low, take the ones out of the back, just let it hang, and then pull the front two out and just let it fall. But that's completely up to you. But this is definitely easier. Put it on this and just teeter-totters it down. So I'm going to go ahead and teeter-totter her down, and then I'll show you guys those bolts. Sweet. Now that I got this out, I can show you guys the bolts that I was talking about. So this one over here, this 14, you just have to loosen it so it can swivel side to side because it sits right in front. The rack and pinion goes underneath this, and then it sits underneath. If you leave it like this and this one on, you won't actually be able to move it anywhere. So you just got to loosen the 14, put that out of the way. Same thing on this side. You loosen the 14 up, and this thing just comes right out of the way. It makes it super easy. Boom, boom, boom. This one right here is kind of a pain. This one too, you're definitely going to need a swivel when you have it up there, because you have it like in a corner and it's kind of tucked. But once you remove the bolts on the back side, it drops down just a little bit, so it gives you some more room. But you guys can see here, I just left the rack in place. Everything is going to stay. It's held up by the joint up here. It wouldn't be a bad idea to get a piece of rope if you're going to be leaving it for a long time, just to tie it up so it is out of the way. Cool part about this, doing it this way, is you don't have to remove the axle nut. It looks like we're going to have enough play here to be able to just pull the axles out and just leave them in their spot. So now that I got this out, I'm going to go ahead and pull that axle out, remove the 3 bolts right there for the half shaft. 1, 2, 3. Get those bolts out of the way. Just get these axles out, or sorry, get them to the side. That way they're out of the transmission and we can unbolt it and just slide her out. Awesome, I went ahead and got the axles out of the way. For the transmission bolts, just to get them done and out of the way, so that way you're not having to lift the car up and down so many times. Just go ahead and remove, there's a 17 right here, 17 right here, and then right here you got a 14. You're also going to have to remove this little cover, this dust cover between the pressure plate and the engine. You got to remove that. On this side, we have a mount that goes right here, and it perfectly covers a bolt on this side. So you just got to remove that one. Then there's one on the starter, and oh, forgot, there's one over here hiding. Boom. So you got to make sure you get that one. You'll have to use a line wrench to be able to get clearance for it. Definitely can't get a ratchet on it. Tried that, wasn't working. But once you get all those done, you pretty much got everything unbolted down here from the transmission. Then we're going to have to go up top. You know that there's going to be one on this side, one on the other side, and then that'll be it. Transmission should move. Also, I know that this mount right here had to be taken off because supposedly it hits here, and you're going to have to take off the whole entire motor mount. But I can give you guys a better look at that once I get the transmission out of the car. But yeah, those are the things that you got to do down here. We're pretty much all done. I'm going to just lower it, have something that I can rest the transmission on, and then put something underneath the engine. That way we can get that clutch out. So that's about that time. So I'm going to go ahead, lower the car, get those 2 bolts out, push the transmission out. Transmission is out. Other thing that you have to do besides the normal bolts that you have to take out for the motor mount is this computer right here. There's a bolt for it on the back of the bracket. You got to remove that so that way you can get to these two bolts right there. I know it sounds stupid, but that's what they did. They put this literally right in front of it, so you got to pull all that out. You don't have to unplug it actually. You have enough room if you have an extension just to shove it down there. But you want to take the whole entire mount out because if you don't, you will not have enough room for the crank or where the crankshaft meets the output shaft of the transmission. You don't have enough room, so you want to take this all the way out. There you can clearly see on the mount a little better where that hidden bolt is on the bottom, and that was the one that you needed to get with a wrench. So now we're going to go ahead and open up the box for the clutch. He's got an ACT, so it's super nice clutch. It's going to be nice and grippy. And we'll also go ahead and replace the throwout bearing. And then if it has a pilot bearing, we'll go ahead and do that as well. So let's get to it. Yeah, so alright, so I bought a lot of clutches in my day, some $1,000 clutches, and the boxing has never looked as good as this one, for show. I don't think I've ever bought an ACT clutch, and I think I'd start, because that presentation right there, that looks perfect. I don't know, they just went out of their way getting this little cover thing for the clutch. I don't know, man, this looks super good. It comes with grease too, little ACT grease, super awesome. This is super nice. It's got a pilot bearing too, awesome. We got our clutch key, and down here we'll have our pressure plate. Cool, awesome. I don't see a flywheel. Don't see a flywheel, but we might be using the original one. I'll go ahead and get the pressure plate off of it and the clutch before I call the customer, and just take a look at it, see what it looks like, and then I'll take pictures of it, ask the customer what they want to do, if they want to keep it or if they want to get a new flywheel. I think they were under the impression this one came with the flywheel, but it sure don't look like it. But anyways, let's get to it. So I'm going to take that off, take a look at it, and then I'll go ahead and give the customer a call here in a second. Oh yeah, no good. Yeah, I called the customer. I let them know that this clutch is definitely bad. You can see it's got a bunch, or this flywheel, sorry, has a bunch of hot spots all throughout it. So I just called him. He's gonna go ahead and try to locate one now, and we should have one here shortly, and we'll get this all back together. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the pilot bearing out so I can still do something in the meantime, and I'm going to show you guys a cool trick on how to get it out, so let's do it. So I wanted to show you guys a cool trick to use if you don't have a blind puller, but I don't actually have any bread. So I thought I had some hot dog buns here, but I don't. I just want to show you how to do it if you don't have one and you're on the fly. But any piece of bread, white bread, doesn't matter. You can also use this with grease as well. So I'm just going to show you guys the trick. I wanted to show you guys on camera, but I don't think I'll be able to. Or I know I can. But anyways, so you got, let's see if we can get some focus here. You got your pilot bearing in here. Now you can shove grease into this hole or also shove a bunch of bread and then hit it with a socket that's that same size. And what it does is it actually pushes into it and it makes it expand, and it pushes this pilot bearing literally right out. It does it really fast once you start pressing on it. You can do it with grease. Grease works. Also bread. The reason you want to use bread instead of grease mainly is just because it's less cleanup. But I didn't find any bread here, so I'm actually just going to use a puller. Puller is definitely easier. It just takes 2 seconds. Boom, boom. They're both super easy. But I just want to show you guys that little trick. That way, if you don't have a puller and you want to do it on the fly, you can still get it done. So I'm going to go ahead and pull her out real fast. And it is out. Go ahead and make sure that you grease up the hole for the pilot bearing. That way when the input shaft goes into it, it's got some nice grease and lubricant. Also, it helps you get that pilot bearing in faster. Now all I'm going to do is put the new one in. First I'm going to obviously grease it up, then I'm just going to set it here and get a socket and just tap on the socket until I get it all the way in. But yeah, I'm going to clean this out and then go ahead and get her greased up. So I just went ahead and spoke with the customer. The closest flywheel is about an hour away, and he actually has to go out that way. So he's gonna go pick it up and then bring it back. But by the time that happens, it'll probably be at the end of the day. It's already getting late, as is. So I will just come back tomorrow and finish it. It's literally the same, and I won't bore you guys with that. It's just the same process, just obviously doing it all over again, the reverse side. One thing you do want to keep in mind though when you're putting it back together is the spline for the rack and pinion. You want to make sure you line the steering wheel up straight and slide that in before you go ahead and put the bolts back in for the bottom part of the subframe. So just make sure you do that beforehand and you guys will be good. But I'm going to go ahead and call the video there, guys. As always, go ahead and like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.
You don't got no sauce, then you're lost. But you can also get lost in the sauce.